if you fall off, right? Let's say you get a flat tire.
Yep.
Do you slash your other 3 tires? No, you fix your flat tire and you move on, right?
One lousy day isn't going to mess up your whole A1C. One lousy day isn't going to make you gain 6 pounds. It's the entire cumulative process that's going to do it. Enjoy food, enjoy activity with the people you love when you want on your terms without diabetes restricting you. It's nice to say you want it and then make some actions towards it. It's another thing to say, okay, to get to that point, let me break it down into welcome to the Your Diabetes Insider podcast, where we take all of the mysteries of blood sugar control, focusing on nutrition, exercise, and any of the other 40 plus factors that may impact your blood sugar. If you don't know me, my name is Ben Zeal. I'm a registered dietitian, certified diabetes educator, strength and conditioning coach, and I've lived myself with type 1 diabetes for over 20 years. And I am here to share everything that I have learned in both my personal and professional experience so you can live that incredible diabetes life. So get ready and let's dive right into today's episode. Welcome to this edition of the Your Diabetes Insider podcast, where we bring back the OG, the GOAT of the Your Diabetes Insider team, Kyra, the amazing diabetes dietitian. What's going on?
It's so nice to be here, Ben. Thanks for having me.
I was gonna say, welcome back. I know.
Thank you.
People love when you're on the show. I think everybody secretly, they love you more than they love me.
I don't think so. I do not believe that one bit.
But at the same time, we're here, and I feel like it's the time of year where everybody's very much enamored with the holidays, and a lot of people fall off track during the holidays. And I know we've been seeing with, patients and just in general in the diabetes community and otherwise, people that are just not staying on their game this time of year.
Definitely not. And I know there's a lot going on. There's a lot of stress. People have kids and that kind of gets mixed into the stress game. But a lot of people just tend to fall off the health wagon when that's really what they should be focusing on most during this time.
Well, and from what you've seen, what would be a couple main reasons, not just why people would fall off, but why it's so important and critical for them to stay on point during this time of year?
Well, I mean, it's just like every other day, right? And I think we were talking beforehand, people should really be focusing on the days in between holidays versus just the holiday and what it's going to bring you and what's going to happen to your blood sugars and what's going to happen to your weight, because all that time in between is what matters most, right? You should be focusing on what you're doing in between then so you can have a good time on Thanksgiving or Christmas or your birthday or whatever, right? So in between Thanksgiving and Christmas is a critical time for you to really hone in so you can have a good time during the holidays as well.
Well, and I feel like it's important to reference, like you said, right? You can have a great time during the holidays. You can have great blood sugars. You can, do you have diabetes or not? You absolutely can. I will say, looking at people's blood sugars from who we worked with last week, there were people who had better numbers during Thanksgiving week than they had the 2 weeks prior. And I'm thinking,
yes,
folks, but it's all the preparation. And to your point, right?
Yeah.
People are like, oh, I got to do good on Thanksgiving. I got to do good for Christmas. But those days in between are where the damage or the success is really made. The individual days kind of bookending it, like Thanksgiving to Christmas or even New Year's, cool. But one lousy day isn't going to mess up your whole A1C. One lousy day isn't going to make you gain 6 pounds. It's the entire cumulative process that's going to do it.
Right. And if you are focusing on your health, let's say you're focusing on your health, the first of the year through September, right? These holiday months are going to be that much easier for you to navigate if you're already practicing this on a daily basis. And so it's, people kind of fall off the wagon here, but if you're already disciplined, you should be able to hone in on these things because it's the most important, right? So I know it's the new year coming up, but it doesn't mean that you have to stop for the holidays and then pick back up starting January 1st. You can do it through the holidays. You can make things work.
Even think about let's just say mid-November. I tend to notice, I'm sure you notice it too, early mid-November is when
even October.
Even
right?
Halloween.
Yeah.
I can hear the footsteps of the holidays. I don't really want to do anything because there's food and there's parties and there's candy and I'm not saying don't have any of that. I don't think you're saying that either. Right. How can you strategize? And what would be something, that you would tell someone, hey, this is how you can effectively have your cake and eat it too with good blood sugars. What would you tell someone to be able to do that?
Oh man. And these times, this season is very stressful for people. So I want to emphasize that like it's really good to just hone in on one thing that you can realistically do to keep things in check, right? For me, that's probably tracking my food. And I would recommend that to anybody who thinks it helps them as well, because it's not only going to help with accurate carb counting, but you're still going to be aware of how much protein you're having, which is also super important. So tracking might be a good recommendation if it fits you realistically for your goals.
Well, and I think to your point, just picking like one thing, picking singularity of focus, picking that one thing, and maybe
totally
you nail that. And then you're like, you know what? I have enough bandwidth where I'm going to make sure I'm focusing on exercise too.
Let's level it up.
Right. Like little tiny changes. I know I say this year round, but I feel like this time's even more critical because the amount of free time goes from this giant amount to just a teeny little bit. Pick those most critical things that you need that are like structural pillars to your diabetes, your blood sugar,
100%.
and cut out the rest of the noise and the BS. Like, oh, there's a holiday party. Cool. You want to have a cookie? By all means, plug the cookie in.
The cookie, dude.
Right. Plug it into your daily goal and say, okay, I'm still on track. I dosed appropriately. I took it at the right time. I know what I'm doing. Instead of being like, oh my God, I can't have the cookie. I'm depriving myself. And then suddenly, I don't know, Christmas shows up and there's a lot of cookies and they all
and you're like 10 cookies deep, dude. Like it happens.
And you're 450 and you're like, help, I'm 450 because I ate all of the cookies because I didn't choose to have anything. So I think that relationship with food gets so skewed this time of year too.
100%. And we're going to be surrounded by it no matter what, right? Whether you're having people over and they're bringing stuff over to your house or you're going to parties, there's going to be food everywhere. There's going to be cookies. There's going to be cakes. And I think, but to your point, like you should indulge, but just being aware of how much you're having and making sure that you're keeping track of the doses, the carbs, those kinds of things, and you will be totally fine for the most part, knock on wood.
Right. They're knocking on all the, keeping your carb counting slightly accurate. And if you're not sure, okay, there's a million resources out there. I mean, shit, there's even AI days. There's even AIs you can like take a picture.
Yeah.
It may not be super accurate yet. Keyword is yet, but at least give you an idea of, okay, this cookie has 32 grams of carbs. Let me dial up. Let me take it on time. Boom. I had a cookie and it's not a big deal. Like, I feel like there's nothing better than you look at your graph after you've had this crazy something and it's just flat.
For real. Yeah. 100%. 100%. And everybody has the ability to do that, right? It's just,
do you want it?
Exactly.
And I don't think there's any problem with saying, okay, it's the holidays. Let me, not slow down in other parts of life, but really prioritize what's most important. But again, it just comes back to what are those critical things? Like, for example, if there's a little tiny detail where you're like, you know what, I do this thing periodically and maybe it's, I don't know, you have one of the Garmin's or whatever the things that like track all of your stats. You're like, I'm going to check that every single week. Maybe that's the thing that goes because that's important, but it's not like mission critical. I feel like holidays are take your mission critical. Like you need to drive, you have a steering wheel, you have gas, you have, right? Like take those most important things. You could make that into a go-kart and still get to where you need to go.
100%.
Bike, like you still need the wheels, you still need the ability to pedal, to move the car or move the bike, but like you need the super fancy LED headlight that can go 100 feet you don't need that right now.
No, absolutely not.
So,
and this is a busy time for everybody too. And I would probably emphasize that picking what's most realistic for you in that moment too, right? Like what are the critical things that you can focus on and then choose one that's going to impact you realistically and for your goals. And then, like you said, like level up if you want to. If this is a piece of cake, add something else. Yeah. So.
Well, and theoretically too, right? Like if it's April and you're able to do all the things in April and now it's mid-November or it's December or mid-December, you should still be able to figure out a way how you can still do the things that worked in April in December 100%. If you're on top of your calendar. And if you're like, well, I have all these social things, there's always something where there can be wiggle room. Maybe you can't work out for an hour like you normally do. Maybe you have to cut 20 minutes. That's okay. Get something. That's
totally awesome.
We will take 20 minutes. Your body will thank you. Your insulin sensitivity will thank you.
Yes.
I still remember, as one of my favorite examples, there was someone who I was working with, averaged typically in like the 135, 140 range, did not work out for 2 weeks. They were just busy, crazy, running around, changed nothing else, just ate the same food, everything. Average went up to the 160s. just
Oh,
working out.
that's like 20 to 30 points.
I mean, that's in a nutshell. That's like a whole point of A1C. Pretty much.
That's insane.
Right. Just from not
Having that sensitivity.
They went back to working out, and shockingly, it all went back to normal again. So that's something right. And you don't need to necessarily, pedal to the metal with it. Notice we just said, right? 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. We'll take that over 0. It's like when you were in school, right? Do you remember how like teachers always threatened they'd give you a 0 if you didn't turn in your stuff? So you turn
100%.
So you turn this thing with your name on it and a few squiggles and a couple of numbers and was right, and you'd get like a 40. The 40 is better than the 0, right? Because your grade's not going to plummet down to nothing.
Right.
That's the same kind of situation. That's all we're looking for is don't take a 0. You take anything else.
Something.
Don't take a 0. I do remember, and I have to mention this. You're going to find this amusing. I was in organic chemistry, which always a fun time. And I remember I went into my professor's office for office hours, and there was, the stack of papers on the desk, and somebody did take a quiz, and they had all the work, and they still got a 0.
Oh my God.
That's tough. I'm like, that person must have just straight up not tried or like drawn a spaceship or something. Like,
right?
It was tough.
Practicing a cursive.
There was also, I'm trying to think, it was a different chemistry class, and there was an extra credit question. I vividly remember also trying to see if I could get the professor to give me points on the extra credit. And it was like, it was something about mercury. It's all I remember was mercury, because I drew like a cartoon character, and I was like, this cartoon character cannot answer your question because he is hopping into this pool of mercury. And they didn't give me any points, and I was very disappointed. How dare them? I was very upset. My random anecdotal story of Ben for the day. But the important is don't take a 0. Don't take a 0. Anything else, even with carb counting, where I feel like, hey, I don't know exactly. Hey, spend the couple minutes, look up on a reference point, whether it's a food database. I mean, the Google gods are able to help, right? Instead of just, I'm taking 6, hopefully it works. Like, that's never.
Yeah, let's not take a dart and shoot it in the dark. Right.
I know you must have seen someone in the past week or so that's definitely just guessed, and they're like, oops.
For sure.
What do you see when that happens normally, just to dissuade people who are listening from doing that?
Well, if we're looking at a graph, usually it goes up and stays up until they either correct or walk or do something to bring it down, right? But it usually just shoots up, or they drastically drop because they're overestimating. Right.
That's the worst. Like, not that either of them are good, but I feel like it's almost way worse because you just ate some crazy food, and you're like, cool, I'm not hungry, and I'm
super full.
40. Literally the worst feeling ever, because it's brutal. It's downright brutal. But But I feel like guessing doses any time of year, but again, especially this time of year, it's super easy. You're in a holiday setting with your work friends or work associates, right? And you're there, and you have a plate, and you're like, I would like some of this and a little bit of that, and I'll take 3. No, count it, excuse yourself. If they're like, what are you doing? You can explain it, or you don't have to. They don't have to know shit. You don't owe them anything. And that they know you, they already know you have the beatus, so it's not a big deal. And they should understand and encourage you to be, supporting your own health.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So this comes up a lot, especially around the holidays, right? Yeah. So people are snacking, right? They're grabbing a little cookie. Maybe they're having a charcuterie board with crackers every 15 to 20 minutes, maybe every half hour. Okay. How would you dose for that?
That's tough. Also, I'm thinking about charcuterie, and I'm like, that sounds really good right now. But I can't even name half the things on the board. I'm just like, there's cheese and there's some sort of salami.
Meat. Yeah.
And it's low carb and it's protein and it's delicious.
Exactly.
So I think it's a really good question, because a lot of people will lose track. And I mean, most often it's, I got plate number 1, and then I don't remember plate 2 or 3. And then suddenly they're 237 with an up arrow thinking, what did I eat? What do I do? So I think the really important thing is, every time you get a plate, the first plate, again, is usually the easiest one. Are you dosing on time? But more importantly, are you actually assessing what's on the plate, right? Are you looking at the cookie? Are you looking at the other food? You dose, assuming you're on insulin. You dose. If you're not on insulin, hopefully you took your type 2 drugs on time. But regardless, right? You have what you need there. But then when it's plate number 2, you've had plate 1, it's plate number 2, you have to repeat the process. And it's going to be annoying. You might take 6 doses if you have 6 plates, and that's not stacking insulin, because stacking is only for corrections. That's, I am eating 6 times, I'm going to dose 6 times, and you might have 13 units on board. It happens depending on the person and their ratios, et cetera, but you have to keep track. And then especially the perfect world, and what we would tell people is keep track also peripherally of the fat and protein. because they may come back. I mean, charcuterie board, and cookies, and I mean, there's going to be something with peanut butter, right? I feel like,
Oh, for sure.
yeah, peanut butter balls or something. Oh my God, Flood. It will all come back. It will all come back in like 4 hours or 5 hours. So that's just kind of a stash, stay present at the party. But the carbs, you have to be paying attention. And if you're like, I didn't dose on time, maybe you just hold the plate for a few minutes and talk to, Karen or Kathy from accounting or whatever. Like, enjoy yourself, but delay it a little bit to try to give the insulin a little bit of a shot. Or, oh, there's some vegetables, have the vegetables, let the insulin kick in. And oh, cool, I had my celery and carrots. Now I'm going to go on to the FUD. God, the FUD sounds so good. But the FUD, I think that would make the most sense. And again, I think it's as much effort as you want to give, right? A lot of people will say, oh, my A1C went up this, 2-3 months of the year. Well, that's 25% of the year. Like you could have a 6 and then a 7.5 and you're like, well, you average that out and it's still solid, but you could do so much better.
That's a quarter of the year though, right? Like put it into perspective for a minute. Like that's a bit of time. So
that's a substantial amount of time. And then, I mean, over your life, that's what, like it's a quarter of your life, depending on what you do. And that's the thing is I feel like everybody needs to try to just keep it simple. Like that's been the theme of the whole thing is simple. Don't try to overdo it. Don't try to climb Mount Everest. Not now, which I think in the same token, I think a really good segue from this would be if you want to climb Mount Everest, why are you waiting until January 1st to plan for everything?
Totally.
Like, does it really matter? Like if you say on January 1st, I am declaring I'm going to get an A1C of 6, or I'm declaring I'm going to lose 25 pounds. You could declare the same thing on December 16th and it doesn't really matter. It's the same thing,
Exactly.
Yeah. Goal setting. What are your thoughts on successful goal setting for someone who's listening who's like, every year I make a goal and every year I fail? What would you suggest to make sure that someone does not fail this year?
Well, I would be realistic with yourself. Like going back to the SMART goals, right? Be specific, measure in time. Like how long is this going to take you? Maybe do a specific goal for like the first 3 months of the year or now. You can start now and then do that every 3 months or monthly or, however you want to time that out. Right. But it has to be somewhat measurable. You need to be realistic with yourself. So how are you going to attain it? You need some kind of plan, right? And I would just make sure that it aligns with you not being overwhelmed for one. Because I know there's a lot of people, especially as type A's, as type 1 diabetics, right? We want to do everything perfectly. But if we hone in on one thing at a time, I think you are going to be much more successful instead of getting overwhelmed and then just dropping everything. So make sure it's measurable, realistic for you in your lifestyle, maybe set a time frame on it and, don't kick yourself in the ass if you fall off for it. Like, here's what I've been telling people, and I don't even remember who told me this, but if you fall off, right? Let's say you get a flat tire.
Yep.
Do you slash your other 3 tires? No, you fix your flat tire and you move on, right? And I apply that to the same thing as like falling off your diet or missing a workout or something. Do you just throw it in the toilet? No, you just move on and keep your goals in sight and, move on with your day. So
that tire analogy, I'm just like, oh, well, the one tire's done. I guess I'm done for the day. Boom, boom.
Right?
Like, no, absolutely.
I'm just going to stick this knife in here. All 3 tires.
Exactly. Like, oh no, I think that's a really important point you bring up because I think it's twofold, right? I think one of them is you set the target and it's time bound. But I think the second part of it is too, if it's 3 months, if it's a quarterly goal or it's a yearly goal, or it's this year, I'm going to lose 30 pounds, break that down a lot more. And I feel like something I've struggled with over the years and I finally feel like I'm getting better at is really breaking it down. You can say, I want to lose 30 pounds. I want an A1C of 5.9. But you have to truly break down the steps because it's nice to say you want it and then make some actions towards it. It's another thing to say, okay, to get to that point, let me break it down into 4 quarters. Okay, it's December 15th. I'm making up dates, right? Because I'm not picking January 1st because it's right. It's December 15th. So I know by March 15th, I need to be at this point. This is what needs to happen. Okay, so now in those 3 months, what do I need to break down monthly? So now by January 15th, what am I doing? And then even breaking it another step down to, okay, by December 22nd, before Christmas, already doing my thing and making this happen, taking action towards it. What am I doing in the next week? And then if you really want to get precise, what am I doing in the next day? But breaking it to that level, it doesn't have to be hard. What you'll notice is that, hey, if your A1C is 8 right now and your goal is 6, that's only 2 points. Only 2 seems like it can be like a lot for some people, but that's 2 points. That's 0.5% every quarter. So that first quarter, all you got to do is move 0.5%. Like, there's a lot of very little things you could start doing that will probably drop it more than that. And if you don't end up hitting it, okay, you stop and reevaluate. Okay, after a month, I'm not where I needed to be. Where did I fall off on this? And that's I think, the toughest thing. Like, you're not going to, I didn't make it. Let me just, slash my other tires. And all right, well, I only did so much with measuring my food and I started working out and this and that. I'm just not going to work out. Like, that's slashing your other tires.
Exactly. And to your point of only doing one thing at a time and breaking it down even further, like, what's one thing that you can do in that, let's say, quarter, like 3 months, right? 3 or 4 months that you can do to work towards that goal.
Right.
And maybe it'll take you a little longer, but at least you're still moving towards that goal. I have a client in mind who really wanted to lose weight, right? And she was doing everything, but she's super busy. And she was trying to do yoga. She was trying to eat well. She was trying to pre-bolus. She was doing her tracking and deficit. And then she also had a child. And a lot of things were just overwhelming her. And she would do all these things and then just crash big time because she just couldn't. And she didn't really have like a number in mind, right? But she just wanted to lose weight. So we broke it down. Okay, what's the main thing that you can do right now in your life that will get you towards that goal? And so we were like, okay, well, she needs to drink more water. That's all that she can do right now with her time. So we focused on drinking more water. And then she added a yoga class a month after that. So like slowly stacking on these habits will ultimately get to your goal, maybe faster, maybe slower, but at least you're reaching that goal.
Well, and I think to your point too, because you mentioned how she had a ton of different things going on and she's like, hey, I have to simplify it, remove certain things and then add them back in. I think at the same time, when someone says, especially this time of year, I don't have time for blank, take inventory of everything you're doing right now. Like, I would almost encourage people to do a 24-hour log of what they're doing. Like, and do you get up? What do you do? And it might be, you just found out you're scrolling for 45 minutes a day. Okay, well, maybe you can scroll between sets while you're working out instead, or something.
That's a fantastic idea.
Something like that, right? Because a lot of times we don't even realize these little tiny time sucks and 5 minutes here and 10 minutes there and, 12 minutes over there. You suddenly add that up and you have a whole hour of time that just disappeared that you could apply towards something else. And, I don't have time, but you do. You're just not prioritizing it because you don't even realize you're missing this. So, I mean, again, just putting it hypothetically, if someone says to me, I don't have time, I can't fit a 30-minute workout in, let's do an inventory of your schedule. Okay, well, we found out you have 45 minutes of loose time that's just sitting there. Well, suddenly, if you're, not wasting that time, maybe you're more productive at work, you get home a little bit earlier, you have that 30 minutes before, you have to make dinner for your kids or whatever. You just solved your biggest hang up. There's always a way to find the time to do it. And even if it's, again, like we said, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, we'll take that more than a 0 and it will help with weight loss, blood sugars. They all feed into one another. It's all lifestyle.
100%. It's just a matter of being really real with yourself, right? Like you said, setting that list up and realizing like, oh man, I'm scrolling on TikTok for 2 hours after work. Like, I should probably get on the treadmill or something. Or you could, or track your food while you're walking on the treadmill. There's so many things that you could do to make your time that much more efficient.
And it's not like it's hard because I can say like, I don't necessarily scroll between sets, but I know if I need to check on something or I need to, message someone, like I can do that. I'm not going to make it take, 10 years in between my sets. But if I know I've got 30 seconds or I've got 60 seconds, that's enough time to go peek something. And if you're really that committed to scrolling, hey, you watched a video between sets, boom, next one, boom, next one, boom, next one. And reels are limited to 90 seconds anyway. So, you can't be waiting much longer if you want, right? So there's always ways to figure it out. And there's not going to be any sort of quick fix, but there are quick additions you can do that will have a 10 times return on your time investment. So
Totally.
don't make it complicated. But I would encourage anyone listening to this, don't wait till January 1. Like literally sit down, spend 30 minutes, spend an hour, which you can probably find a time to carve out maybe on like a Sunday evening when really, I don't know, but I don't feel like anything really happens on Sunday evening except Sunday Night Football. So
it's pretty boring.
Right. So like if you're just chilling, right? Reflect on the past year. What did you do amazing? What did you not do amazing? But then what do you want to accomplish in 2025? Because there's a lot that you can do. You're capable of way more than you realize in the next year. So why not make that something a reality? And whether that's, hey, I want my blood sugars in a better spot. If you need help with that, hi, we're here, right?
What's up?
We like to think we're pretty awesome with what we do, and our patients, when compliant, have amazing results. So I don't see any reason, if you need support, to not be like, hey, Ben and Kyra, what's up? But on the flip side, like, even if you're like, hey, I want to do these little things, pick small, little actionable things and start doing them now. Because like I said, like, it doesn't matter. It could be March 12th when you decide, you know what? I mean, here, March 14th is Pie Day, right? It could be Pie Day. You know what? I'm gonna master how to have a pie before Pie Day. Okay, cool. How are you gonna? You're gonna have little carb challenges along the way. You're gonna make sure your ratio's on point. Like, there's ways to do it, but set the target and make it happen. And you could end up by the end of a year from now. I would love to hear the story of someone who listened to this who's like, hey, I took your advice. I made a bunch of goals and now my A1C is 2% better. I eat the things I want to eat. I'm stronger. I lost weight and I feel awesome. That's what we want.
1000%. Yes.
Like, it doesn't have to be hard. And I feel like, I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of people that like I've worked with and I've talked to have been like, when I made it simple is when everything started to finally fall into place for me.
100%. Yeah. Not stressing about things that are overwhelming you and just honing in on one thing that you can do realistically. And then, to your point, leveling up when you think you're ready.
And not beating yourself up when you fall off, because
don't slash your 3 tires, man.
No, everyone has a day. I have days, my site goes bad, something happens. The other day I had my Dexcom was off by 120 points. That was delightful. So I'm like, oh, everything's great. Roscoe P comes up to me, starts pawing my leg, and I'm thinking, I'm probably fine. It says I'm like 152 or something. I had just eaten, and I test. He's adamant. And I'm like, all right, fine, bro, fine. So I test. It's like 278.
Oh my gosh, like, dude.
You gotta be kidding me right now. And so then I test again. It was the same thing. I'm like, okay, thanks, Dexcom. That's great to know. So needless to say, I had to change my site because it was a new site that totally didn't work. But again, right? I could have said, F it, I'm done, game over. Like, no, how can I get my blood sugar back into range? I'm not going to beat myself up. I can only control what I can control. And how am I going to get back to normal? Like, it doesn't have to be hard. But
shit's always going to happen, right?
Literally.
How are you going to respond to it? And how are you going to move on, right? Are you going to cry about it? Are you going to slash your other 3 tires, like I said? No.
I love the tire analogy so much. And I'm just thinking about like different vehicles too, where I'm like, people, what are those things, those slingshots, like those giant trike thing? You know what I'm talking about? So there's these things I see all the time. And this is, again, very random, but I'm sure someone listening knows what I'm talking about. I think they're called slingshots. They're like, it's not a car, but it's not a go-kart. It's like kind of this in-between kind of thing. And there's 3 wheels and people usually are like bumping music really loud and they go really fast.
Is there 2 wheels in front or 2 wheels in back? And then 1 wheel in front or in back?
I literally need to search because I don't know.
Because I think I've seen them both, right?
Let's find out. It is 2 wheels in front, 1 wheel in back.
Okay.
But they're, like, and I know people around here ride them all the time and like, they look cool. But again, I'm just like slashing tires. I'm like, you only have 2 other tires to slash on a sling. Like, there was.
You better not F up. No, I'm just kidding.
I do also have to say, and this one would be while we're on the tires topic. So Amelia and I were in Nashville at some point in the last like month. And in the span of like 5 minutes, we saw a bunch of wild stuff. I did see a random like Dexcom on the street, which was on someone's arm, which was.
I was like, it's just laying there.
No, just casual Dexcom. What's up? But no, there was a guy and we were walking across the street and it was us and him and he starts talking to us and this is just out of nowhere. And he's like, yeah, and you're going to laugh so hard at this. He's like,
oh God.
Yeah, like I just really thought it was important to tell you guys that somebody at one point, he told me that if I could learn how to ride a unicycle, I could have his unicycle. And so I started practicing. And 2 weeks later, I learned how to ride the unicycle. And now I ride it everywhere.
Oh,
I'm like, that was a great story. Thank you so much for sharing. Exactly. I'm like, I don't understand what's happening right now.
oh my gosh, dude. We'll probably run into that in Seattle for sure.
I'm going to laugh so hard. It was remarkably random. I'm like, I have not had that random of a story in a long time. But
Oh my gosh.
anyways, it's always fun. See, we're fun. We like to think that we're fun. And
we're freaking awesome, dude.
we do. I feel like we make blood sugars better with people, but then we also have a really good time doing it, which I don't know about you, and this will just be my random final tangent, but like a lot of times you go to like the endo, you go to your educator, you're kind of like, all right, I'm here, whatever. But like, I genuinely feel like when I have sessions with patients, they're like excited and hyped up and like, it's like, yeah, let's go. We get to chat today. And like, they'll get to know about their lives and stuff like that too, which is amazing. But we cover so much ground, but they enjoy the experience. And when you are excited to go to something, I feel like that makes a world of a difference for your motivation to actually do it too.
Totally. I feel like we definitely have a good vibe here. And, you know, if you go to your endo, usually we have that white coat. What is it called?
Oh, like white coat syndrome when like you're nervous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Whereas like, I feel like we're super authentic. We're ourselves. We like to share. We're relatable. So
we've all got it.
Yeah. We're the bee's knees.
We've all got the beatus. We're all dietitians.
We do.
We all have exercise backgrounds, and we ultimately just want to help share our knowledge personally and professionally to be able to say, hey, how can your blood sugars, if you're listening to this, how can your blood sugars or your kids' blood sugars be so much better? Enjoy food, enjoy activity with the people you love when you want on your terms without diabetes restricting you. So if that is you, if you're like, hey, I want this, whether it's for 2025, whether it's, you know what, I want to just get started on this now, just, holler at me on Instagram, on TikTok, at Man of Zeal, MANOFTZL. You've got, me, you've got Kyra, you've got a couple others amazing that are on this team as well. And we would love nothing more than to be able to help be a part of your journey and watch you succeed and help you have an incredible life living with diabetes. But anything else that you want to give in terms of wisdom for people listening?
Gosh, I can't really. We covered a lot of ground today. I don't know. I would just say don't stress too much about the holidays specifically. Just worry about what you're doing in between, because that's kind of what matters most. Like holidays are what, 6-7 days out of the entire year. Yeah. The rest of the 359 days are most important. So
because it's a leap year this year. So that's shit. That's why it's 359. I was like, is it 358? No, it's 359 because it's a leap year.
Oh, I got it right.
Yeah, let's go.
Wow, I'm terrible at math. I'm surprised.
I was going to say, I feel like you're good with the diabetes math, but when it comes to when it comes to calendar stuff, it's like, whatever. There's Google for that.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, I would say thank you so much. We'll have one of these for weight loss, I feel like, in the next month-ish, because I feel like that's going to be a major goal for a lot of people. I feel like it will be important to come on. I know we did one last year, but kind of revisiting, and even sharing some other ideas that might help for people that make it sustainable for 2025.
Yeah. I mean, going over maybe some GLP-1s, maybe a little bit of type 2 stuff too.
Yeah. That would be amazing. But yeah, I appreciate you for being on this episode.
I appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, we'll make this happen again, and I will catch everyone listening in the next episode.
Hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey.